Hello and welcome to Plugged In. Today we're on location in Nanaimo, Kamloops, and Vancouver. Join us as we meet Susan and Kamloops, who recently became a living kidney donor. Then we pay a visit to Acumen Machines Limited and meet co-owner Wes as he talks about his battle with kidney cancer. And in Nanaimo, we visit former BC and Yukon branch president Ron Walker as he shares his personal story of losing his daughter to kidney disease and how this journey led him to volunteering at the Kidney Foundation for over 30 years. And don't forget, November 28th is Giving Tuesday across Canada. How will you give? Check out kidney.ca for more information. And now stay tuned for Plugged In.
Welcome to Plugged In. I'm Deb and I'm so pleased to be part of the host panel today. So if you're new to our show, you might be asking, what is Plugged In? Plugged In is a show that's about your health and specifically the health of your kidneys. Why kidney? Because while our kidneys are incredibly important to our overall health, many people don't know a lot about their kidneys and the vital functions that they play in their body. So here on Plugged In, we talk about just that and how to keep our kidneys healthy. We also talk about kidney disease, who's at risk, and the importance of organ donation. We'll share some amazing stories about those who have had life-saving transplants, those who have given the gift of life, and those who help care for kidney patients day in and day out, and so much more. But we also like to have a little fun on our show, and there's no one better to entertain us than my great co-hosts, Amro, Daniel, and William. Welcome, guys.
Hello. Hi, guys.
Great to be back.
On previous shows, we've been sharing with you some of the best ways to keep your kidneys healthy, like
Reducing your salt and sodium intake.
I know, I remember you shared some of your great low sodium chicken recipes.
I don't want to brag or nothing, but
You right, I did.
another great tip to remember is to drink lots of water and keep hydrated.
Sure. And another fun fact, one that's really good for your heart and kidneys, but it's something we don't always do, stay active.
That's a great one. And one of the easiest ways to do that is just to get moving, and walking is a great place to start. Right? Boosts energy, easily fits into most lifestyles.
Yeah, and so, but my question is, so how much time does it actually take to make an impact, like walking?
How much time do we need to walk?
Yeah, before it actually makes an impact.
Anyone have a guess?
3 hours.
Close. 30 minutes of light to moderate walking will do the trick.
That's it? Wow. I mean, and don't forget to stretch, because that's important, right?
And another thing, you don't even need to do the 30 minutes all at once. You can break it down into 3 10-minute segments. So I was thinking we could take a 10-minute break and go
For what?
walking.
Yes.
Thank you, Ron, for being with us today. You have a very compelling story to tell, and I know it's not an easy story, but it's one that puts a very different perspective on what life is like for kidney patients and kidney patients and their families. And your daughter, Allison, she passed away 26 years ago from kidney disease. And I'm wondering if you can take us back and share a bit of her journey and the journey that you've traveled over the past several years.
Happy to do that. I'm going to take you all the way back to 1986. Allison was 24 years old, and she had just enrolled in September at the University of Saskatchewan. In October, she went to the doctor complaining about feeling just loggy and lousy and fluey and that. And the doctor said, well, you're like the other patients are coming through here right now. You have to go home and spend 2 or 3 days in bed and take a little bit of hot tea and whatever, and you should be good in 3 or 4 days' time. The next day, her roommate came home and found her lying on the floor of their apartment. She called emergency and they took her to St. Paul's Hospital, to the ER there. And as they wheeled her in, by great good fortune, standing in the middle of that ER was Dr. Mark Paulson, who was the eminent nephrologist in Saskatchewan at that point in time. He took a look at her and said, this girl has kidney failure. Dialyze her now. And so that's what they did. They dialyzed her and they got her stabilized, and set up for peritoneal dialysis, which you do at home, as opposed to going to the dialysis center for 3 trips a week. So she was a little bit more mobile than she might have otherwise been. And she went on dialysis, and within about maybe 6 months, she got called in as a potential transplant recipient. They had got her primed, and they called her and said, "We have a patient, we have a cadaver, and we'd come right now." So that she went in, and transplant took place. The kidney that went to the other recipient was fine, and he was out of the hospital in 3 or 4 days. Allison's kidney never started. She was in a private room for about 3 or 4 weeks until they finally got her stabilized and able to go home. And so she lived on basically not doing very much except surviving for quite a long time. She became very good at the surviving, very, very careful about cleanliness, because she was terrified that she might get peritonitis, which is a very nasty disease. About 2 years after she had the kidney failure, she was diagnosed with lupus. And so she was living with that for another 3 years until about late 1990, early 1991. The lupus began to attack other organs. And she began to be in and out of delirium, in and out of the hospital. And she was in the hospital in one of these time frames. And in a lucid moment, she heard the nurses on the ward talking about this wonderful new ward next to the ward she was on. And they explained to her what it was all about, and it turned out to be a palliative care ward. That night, her mother came to the hospital to see her, and Allison said, "Mom, I want to go there. I want to go to that palliative care ward." And her mother thought for a few minutes. Being a nurse, she understood what was being asked of her. And we told Allison, "We want you to talk to this social worker. We want you to talk to your doctor. We want you to talk to the minister. And when you've done that, and if you're still of the same mind, we will honor your wishes." And that's precisely what happened. We had a little family conference, and she said, "Yes, I still want to go to palliative care." So we said, "That's fine," and we made the arrangements, and she was transferred immediately to the palliative care ward. That meant that she was withdrawn from dialysis and simply kept on a sustaining dose of morphine. During the 5 days that she was there, in that ward, they had a beautiful library in the middle of the room, and we simply took over that library, and we had dinner there. The entire family assembled in Saskatoon, and we had dinners there. And her brother, her youngest brother, was in school at McGill in Montreal, and he couldn't come right away because we were in the midst of exams. And once the exams were over, he got on the plane and he flew to Saskatoon, arrived about 10 o'clock at night. And he went in, he spent some time with Allison, and once she'd had a chance to talk to Bruce, she just let go, and she passed away about 2 o'clock in the morning.
What was that like for you and your wife, and you've got, Allison had 6 siblings, right? Some of whom were not necessarily in Saskatoon, but obviously everyone was hugely impacted by this devastating news.
We never expected that it would end the way it did. We knew that time on dialysis was not infinite, but we felt that we might have some warning of when the end might come. But it just all happened bang, 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 and within about 8 or 9 days.
When she was diagnosed, I guess, or needed to go on dialysis, she got a transplant quite quickly.
Yes, she did. It was unusual. In those days, the wait list in Saskatchewan was a lot shorter than it is here in British Columbia, so that it wasn't that long for her to wait to get the transplant. It was from a deceased donor.
And I guess, there, as you said, there were 2 kidneys, and one of them worked well.
One of them walked out the door.
And unfortunately, the one that your daughter received failed.
it failed. Actually, probably was nothing to do with the kidney. It was just her body rejecting the organ.
We talked earlier on, and you know, we talked about how as she got closer to that 5-year mark, there was a point, I guess, where she wondered, you know, can I do this anymore? And I think those were actually, you said some of the words she used about, I can't do this.
Basically, those were her words. I don't want to do this anymore. The delirium, in and out of delirium, she knew what was happening to her, and she just didn't want to cope with that any longer. And she made a very brave decision, I think, to end it all.
So she chose a route, and it's called conservative care, right? When you I guess.
When you decide not to do anymore, yeah. And in her case, that conservative care was very short.
It was very short, but for her, there was probably, I mean, she had her family around. There was a lot of love. There was a lot of.
Yeah, the times that the 5 days that we spent pretty much living in the palliative care ward, which was in those days, that was a state-of-the-art facility, probably one of the best in Canada at that point in time, and it made it very easy for us to be there and be around all the time. And as I say, we had dinners. We all ate as a family in the library, and we just took over the room. They had in that hospital wheelchairs that were made of pink plastic, and we started to refer to that as her pink Cadillac. And she got a charge out of that.
I'm here in McDonald Park in Kamloops, the site of the 2017 Kamloops Kidney Walk. And Kamloops is one of 16 communities celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Kidney Walk campaign. And Kamloops is doing it in a really big way. They have a very special honoree, Susan Duncan, who's going to be sharing her story that's so captivating and inspiring as a living kidney donor. And she's here with us to share it today. You know, just over a year ago, you donated your kidney to someone who you met very briefly, but whose story made such an impact on you that you decided to become a living donor. Can you take us back and share that story with us?
I'm a communications officer for Interior Health, and part of my job is to do stories on staff members. And I had heard about a staff member who was intending to go to Lithuania with her husband and adopt 3 children from an orphanage. So I thought it was really an amazing story, and I wrote about it. And then about 18 months later, I ran into the colleague, and she told me that her husband, Lloyd, was in the renal unit. He had just unexpectedly experienced severe kidney failure with really very little warning. So I went down and met Lloyd, and when we were talking, I said, kind of offhandedly, well, let me know if I can do anything for you short of donating a kidney. And at that point he said to me, well, I'm A positive. And I thought, well, I'm A positive.
Light went off, right?
Yes, and maybe I should get tested.
Such an impactful story. You know, in making your decision to become a living donor, you did your own research. And you shared with me a quote a while ago that you found in some of the materials that you were researching. The person said, I couldn't imagine coming to the end of my life and having 2 healthy kidneys, knowing that somebody else died because they couldn't even have one. Why did those words and that information have so much impact on you so that you became a living donor?
Well, it was really just a practical decision, actually, when I read that. I just thought, I've got 2 healthy kidneys, and here is Lloyd on dialysis 3 days a week, can't be really a vital dad anymore. And I thought, if I could contribute to their journey, which was to bring these children home and give them a great life. It's kind of like the old "it takes a village." That's one of the reasons I made the decision. But also in doing my research, it became very clear that you really only do need one kidney, and they're not even really sure why we have two kidneys. And I also spoke to my family doctor, and he said, for sure, that's a great thing to do, and you'll be fine because you are a really healthy person.
How are you feeling now? You know,
I feel
everything.
great. I actually don't even think about having one kidney. It never crosses my mind until somebody will go, "Hey, I heard you donated a kidney." And then I'll go, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk to people about it when they do ask what it was like. I don't have a lot of people going, I want to try that. But hopefully they will as they learn more about it. That really, you know, two healthy kidneys when you only need one, and there's so many people on dialysis whose lives are completely changed by kidney disease, and not, you know, in a good way.
You're the honoree for this year's walk in Kamloops. So I know we're really excited to have you there. What does this mean to you to be there, to have the opportunity to speak?
You know, the honor is not in being recognized. The honor is really in being able to raise awareness about this really important cause and encourage people to do their research and to find out if they too could be a living donor. And even if they can't be a living donor, to just get on the organ transplant list for, you know, after death, because it's just so important for people who are waiting for an organ, a kidney, to have that hope that something's going to come their way.
Susan, your story is so compelling and inspirational, and you were absolutely gracious in the way you speak about being a living donor. Thank you so much for joining us today on Plugged In and sharing this story.
Thank you.
You've contributed significantly to the Kidney Foundation and held some very senior positions. So can you talk a little bit about how you first got involved in the foundation and tell us a little bit about your role with the foundation?
Well, I'll never forget how I got recruited. At that time, the brand new executive director of the Saskatchewan branch of the Kidney Foundation was a wonderful woman by the name of Denny Holroyd. And when she found out that we were Allison's patients, we were co-opted. There was just no end to it. And
whether you liked it or not, right?
Whether I liked it or not. And actually, it was just when the foundation was beginning to exit from their national peanut selling campaign and take on door-to-door as the replacement for that. So Karina and I spent most of one winter driving the streets of Saskatoon, doing the original mapping for the door-to-door campaign. That was our first real volunteer for the foundation.
Wow. And that's the what we call the March Drive, right?
March Drive,
yes,
indeed. And from there, we moved in 1993 to Nanaimo, and immediately made contact with the Nanaimo chapter, and we went from there. And one thing leads to another, and I ended up doing work with the branch, and have ultimately spent a total of 7 years on the National Board of Directors.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you for the difference that you've made, both at the Kidney Foundation and to kidney patients, to the kidney community. But thank you also for sharing your story today.
Thank you, Deb. It was something for me that worthwhile doing.
I'm here in Kamloops, just outside Acumen Machines Limited. Now, Acumen Machines Limited has been a proud local sponsor of the local Kamloops Kidney Walk for several years, but also co-owner here, Wes Vath, has a personal connection with kidney disease, having been diagnosed with kidney cancer 6 years ago. We're about to go in and talk with Wes about his journey. Come on, let's go meet him. Wes, thank you for joining us today on Plugged In. So you were diagnosed with kidney cancer 6 years ago. Can you take us back to that time and share with us your journey?
Back in 2011, I was experiencing really bad back pain, lower back pain, and sciatic. And after seeing my chiropractor for lots of treatments, he suggested I have back surgery. So I proceeded to go see my family doctor, and she arranged to have me meet a back surgeon who, to his processes, required that I have a CAT scan on my body. So he had a CAT scan done from my tailbone up to my neck. And after that completion, in 2 days later, I was called back into my family doctor's office saying, we got more important issues to deal with than your back. We're finding you have something going on with your left kidney.
So it was the CAT scan that actually revealed the kidney cancer?
Yes.
So prior to your diagnosis with kidney cancer, did you have any idea about kidney cancer or kidney disease?
No. There was no symptoms displaying that I had any issues with my kidneys. If there was any back pain caused by it, it was being well overshadowed by all the back pain I had in my spine.
So you were diagnosed in January, kidney cancer. When was the surgery?
After that meeting, I was hooked up with another surgeon, and by March, I was having my left kidney taken out.
Wow. So 2 months from the time of diagnosis to when you had the surgery, post-surgery, what was the recovery like?
Recovery from the surgery was really good. Pain-wise, it was less than what I was dealing with my back. The only real pain I had was, well, your kidneys are hooked up to your private parts, and it felt like somebody had given me a good kick in the private parts. But that pain was for about a week, and it had settled down. And within the 2 weeks, I was back at work.
So for the last 6 years, you've been living with one kidney?
I have.
No problems?
The right kidney's been functioning quite well. It's actually quite amazing.
Is it? It's been picking up the slack, huh? Has
yes,
it for the other? Now you have follow-ups for how long?
After the surgery, I was required to come back every year for 5 years, and Dr. Autumn, who did the surgery, had CAT scans and x-rays taken and did a constant checkup on me for 5 years to make sure that the cancer was gone.
And you've passed the 6-year mark now.
Yes, I was fortunate. The cancer was contained to the kidney itself. It hasn't spread. I didn't have to take any chemo or radiation, so I was really happy about that.
Wow, so you've had a clean bill of health.
Early detection is what saved me, I think.
Right. A lot of people don't realize that actually we're born with 2 kidneys, but we can all function very well with 1 kidney. And that's why there is the living organ donor program, so that people can actually donate a kidney and, like yourself, still have a perfectly healthy life. You're living with 1 kidney, and you haven't, on an everyday, day-to-day, you don't notice any difference?
No difference. No. I can do a full day's work and function quite well. I haven't changed my diet. I eat a good diet.
Important.
Yeah, the wife makes sure of that.
Acumen Machines Limited has actually been a sponsor of the Kamloops Kidney Walk and a supporter of the Kidney Foundation. I know it is also involved in supporting other events here in the city. Why is that important to Acumen Machines Limited?
Yes, we support a lot of charity organizations. The list seemed to get longer and longer, but the Kidney Foundation was added to the list shortly after I experienced my situation. So we started donating in 2014 to the Kidney Foundation.
It's been a real pleasure meeting you today, Wes. Thank you for coming on Plugged In and sharing your story.
Yes, it was nice meeting you too, Barb.
This is Talkin Kidney, and we are here to play Let's Get Organized. Contestants are going to step up. They're going to have to place all the internal organs on our supermodel Jackson here. They have 14 seconds to do it. If they do it in the proper time and put them in the proper place, then they win a prize. Let's meet our first contestant. What's your name? Sam. Sam. All right, Sam, you have 14 seconds to place the organs on Jackson's body. And no, there's multiples. Don't fall into a trap. All right, and go. 6 seconds.
Oh, is there one more?
Yeah, there's still the lungs. There we go. And time! Oh! You're at 14 seconds exactly. Let's see what that one's upside down. There we go. And turn around, supermodel. There we go. This kidney's a little bit lopsided, but we're going to call that a win! Congratulations, Sam. You know your body. And now you know Jackson's body. All right, let's get our next contestant coming up next. Here we go. And what's your name?
I'm Sandrie.
Sandrie, you know the rules. You have to place the organs on Jackson's body as quickly as possible. There's multiples in there. Don't make a mistake. You have 7 seconds. Ring that bell. And we got the liver. She says the stomach goes over there. She says the heart goes over there. You got it. Go. We got. Let's see. And that. Where are you going? And that's time. Step away. Step away from Jackson's body. Let's see. And Jackson. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You did really well. You did really well. Turn around, because the kidneys go there. They're on your. Well, I can't say it out loud because we have other contestants. But you know what? You still. Yeah, there you go. Cindy's trying to get on your back. There you go. All right. We're gonna give you a prize, though. You're still a winner because you always win with knowledge.
Aww.
Big round of applause for Sandrie, please. There you go. Ready, Ava, do you understand the rules? All right, Ava, get ready. You begin now. All right, let's see. Let's turn around. Let's see. And
Pretty good.
I think that's a thumbs up. Let's see, Jackson. That's a thumbs up. We have a winner. All right, we're ready for our next contestant. Are you ready, Sydney? All right, let's get our next contestant up here on Let's Get Organized. And what's your name?
J-Paul.
J-Paul. All right, J-Paul. There's organs in this box. You have to decide which ones go where on Jackson's body. Ready? Remember, there's multiples. Oh, hands by your sides. And you have 14 seconds. Go. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. Oh, interesting placement. Interesting placement. Nice. There we go. And there we go. You've got 4 sets of lungs there. You still have 1 set. You have 2 seconds to move them. You have 2 seconds to move. And time. We're at time. I would like to point out, sometimes there's people who win, and sometimes there are people who learn. And you, J-Paul, have been a learner. Because
Yay for learning!
Because the kidney is shaped different than the lungs, and the kidneys are actually on the back. They're on the back. But you know what? You still win a prize. Here you go. You're still a winner here on Let's Get Organized. Woo! There you go. And let's bring all our contestants back. All our contestants back. Let's get organized! High five, 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 high five. Yay! Thank you, Jackson. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, J. Paul. Thank you, Ava. Thank you, SANDRIE.
So joining our story now is Ron's daughter, Margot. Margot, thank you so much for being with us today. Margot, you lost your sister Allison 26 years ago. How has this impacted you?
Oh, big question. I think in a number of ways. I think, first of all, the obvious. You wonder what could have been, could there anything have done to have spared her life? But I think the biggest thing is just the loss of the sister, the companionship, the camaraderie that you have in the family. And it also seems to me to be a bit of a hole. There's sort of incomplete. A day doesn't go by that you don't think of her, or you think, oh, if we could have only done this with Allison, or if we could have just, we shared so many things together. And her love of crafts, my love of crafts. She was an outdoors person. I like the outdoors too as well. And there's lots of family history there that is now stops at a certain point, and I think that's the biggest impact to the family at large.
I think one of the things, and we touched on this with you, Ron, is what a complete shock this was. There were really no symptoms, and all of a sudden you get the news one day that she needs dialysis and she's in kidney failure. So, from your perspective, what was it like when this news was shared with you?
Yeah, it's a very hard time to go back. I remember the call, and Dad came and phoned us all and said, Al had been diagnosed with kidney failure, and we knew she hadn't been feeling well for a long time. And we talked on the phone, and she had said, Margot, I just can't get rid of this cold, this flu, it's just bugging me. And then the next phone call was from Dad saying she's in renal failure, and it was like, what? It's total shock, and your first reaction is, I got to get there, I got to be there. What happened? What can we do? We knew nothing about renal failure. I didn't know anything about kidneys. And I think at that point you start wanting to learn everything you can learn to support your family, to support her in particular, and to help me to understand what was going on. So yes, it was a huge shock, and I think there's a couple of things, and that you go back to and you think of, oh, maybe that was it, maybe that symptom meant something, and you just don't know. So yeah, it was a huge shock for all of us.
Your dad has been involved with the Kidney Foundation for many years now, and he's done some incredible work and made huge contributions. You must be very proud of him.
We are very proud of him.
Well, again, thank you so much, Margot. I so appreciate you being here, and thank you again, Ron. And that wraps up another episode of Plugged In. Thanks so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed the show as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you.
And a very special thanks to all our guests who showed up in studio and on location.
And of course, thank you for joining us again on Plugged In. Now we want to hear what you thought of today's episode. So let us know on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Like, share, and spread the word, and email us at pluggedin@kidney.ca.
And a very special thanks to our sponsor, Kidney Car.
Absolutely. Just want to leave you with one more thought. If you have not already done so, why not register your wishes to be an organ donor? It's easy and only takes 2 minutes of your time. Just go to kidney.ca
and click on that red button, because I'm living proof that it does work and it saves lives.
Remember, heroes aren't born, they're registered.
Again, thank you for joining us. We will see you next time right here on Plugged In.
Flies open. I'm flying low. Sure, little man.
Welcome to Talkin Kidney, and today we're going. I want to say New York again. That's good. I love that. Let's get organized.
That's not dirty at all.
That's not dirty at all.